Hello, and welcome to Phil Brown's Computer Networking Lab. You're watching the instructional video called VMWare ESXi. In this video, we will be using a hypervisor VMWare ESXi to create a virtual machine. A virtual machine is a program that acts as a virtual computer. The host machine runs on some type of operating system and provides virtual hardware to guest operating systems. The guest operating systems run in Windows on your host operating system like any other program on your computer. The guest operating system runs normally as if it was running on a physical computer. From the guest operating system's perspective, the virtual machine appears to be a real physical computer. Virtual machines provide their own virtual hardware, including a virtual CPU, memory, hard drive, network interface, and other devices. The virtual hardware devices provided by a virtual machine are mapped to real hardware on your physical machine. For example, a virtual hard disk is stored in a file on your hard drive. In this video, we have already installed the VMware ESXi hypervisor operating system on the host machine. We have given the hypervisor the IP address of 10.0.0.9. Now, all we have to do is install the vSphere client software on a separate computer so we can control the virtual machine. Here we are on the vSphere client computer. I'm going to install the vSphere client software on this machine. Here's the installation wizard. I'm going to agree to the license agreement. Okay, let's install it. Okay, now that it's finished, we can take a look at the VMware vSphere client. I'll put in the IP address and the username and password that I have already configured on the host machine. Here we have a certificate warning letting us know that our computer does not recognize the root of the certificate. It's a self-signed certificate. No problem. I'm going to tell it to ignore the warning and continue on. Okay, this is the vSphere client. Let's take a quick look at some of the options that we have. We have the Getting Started tab. The Summary tab. The Virtual Machine tab. The Resource Allocation tab. The Performance tab. The Configuration tab. This one is of particular interest in that inside of the storage, it will allow us to save information where the virtual machine is located. This can be very useful. And here's the Local Users and Groups tab, the Events tab, and the Permissions tab. Here we have the virtual machine, which is labeled with the IP address 10.0.0.9. And here are options that we have for the host machine. We can create a new virtual machine, create a new resource pool. We can put the virtual machine in maintenance mode. We can rescan the data stores. We can add permissions to the virtual machine. We can shut the virtual machine down. We can reboot the virtual machine. We can get a general summary report of the virtual machine. We can get a report of its performance. And we can open it up in a new window. What I want to do in this video is to create a simple virtual machine and have it run Windows Server 2012. I'm going to choose to create a new virtual machine. I want a custom installation because a custom installation gives you more options. I'm going to call this virtual machine Server 1. This is a data store where the hard drive of our virtual machine will be stored. This vSphere client is backwards compatible to the previous versions. Here we can choose the operating system that we want to install on this virtual machine. We can choose from a Windows installation, a Linux installation of several varieties, and we have numerous other choices. Notice that they have selections for Apple Macintosh computers. This can be very useful for somebody who does not actually own a Macintosh computer but wants to play around with it. I'll set it to Windows Server 2012. Here we can decide how many virtual sockets we want and how many virtual cores we want for our CPU. And this is for how much memory we want to use on our virtual machine. This gives us some choice of how many network cards we will have and what type they will be. This allows us to make some choices about the SCSI controller that we will be using in our virtual machine. Here we can choose the size of our virtual disk and some other choices. Here's some more options that we have for controlling the virtual machine. And this is a summary of everything that we've picked. I don't plan on using a floppy drive, so I'm just going to delete it in order to conserve some of our resources. I also want my CD drive to be connected to my host CD drive so that when I install the Windows Server 2012, it will look there for the CD information. Okay. Our Server 1 virtual machine has just been created. I'm going to start it up to the very beginning to give you an idea of how it will look when you install it. Notice that it has its own attributes in the tabs. The console attribute shows you exactly what the virtual machine screen will show. But an easier method is to go and right-click the virtual machine and choose Open Console. Here we see that there are a number of other attributes for Server 1. We can turn on the power. We can install VMware special program to make connection to the virtual machine easier. We can create a snapshot in order to create a steady state picture of the virtual environment. I can open the console, which will show me the screen of the virtual machine. And the edit settings will allow me to modify the virtual machine hardware. Okay, let's power on the virtual machine and take a look at it. We can take a look at the screen by going to the console. This is a useful way of monitoring what the virtual machine is doing, but a better way is to right-click it and choose Open Console. Notice that it tells us that we have 2 active connections to the console. I'll press Ctrl-Alt-Enter in order to make it full screen. Now the virtual machine has booted from the Windows Server 2012 CD. From this point on, it's a normal installation. I'll end this video at this point. In this video, we saw VMware's solution for creating virtual machines. In the next video, we'll look at Microsoft's solution. I hope this video has been informative, and I thank you for viewing.